You should have mentioned Ginault. I know they're not mainstream, but can easily go head to head.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Ginault, because today I'm wearing the silent service with the 12-hour Traveler GMT bezel today. Obviously, I don't think that they've ruined their brand reputation entirely, but I don't think they've been doing it any favors in a lot of ways. No, not at all in my opinion. This comment is ridiculous. The value that the brand has really matters. Even if you say, I'm never gonna sell that watch, the fact that they did all of that marketing, the fact that they have established this watch and this brand as something that's culturally important is, in my opinion, actually important. Lots of people mock them and say like, oh, it's an $8,000 watch, but they are using a Salida movement. That's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. What's up, everybody? I'm Guy. You're watching Just Bluefish Watch Reviews, and it is Sunday, so that means it's time for a new episode of Sunday with Guy. If you're not familiar with this show, every week I try to do a new episode where I do things like answer questions and comments that the viewers have left on my videos over the week, and just kind of rant and ramble about the things that are on my mind, generally in the world of watches, but not always. Sometimes we do go a little bit off topic for fun. That said, today I have two things that I really want to hit on. Number one, I want to do questions and comments, like always. We'll have a handful of those. But number two, I also want to officially announce my giveaway that I am doing. It's my push to hit 100,000 subscribers. And when I do hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but six. Six watches.
Breitling is better than Rolex. Rolex Sux.
Wow, this one is kind of, I don't know, a weird topic, and it's one that I wanted to touch on. Last week's episode of Sunday with Guy, we discussed, not like in the entire episode, just in a small segment, Tudor versus Breitling. I got a message from somebody the week prior that said Breitling is better than Tudor, and my initial reaction was like, no, Tudor's better. And, you know, when I say better, very often, I mean, like, I like it better. Not that it's, like, technically superior or better quality or whatever. Like, Tudor isn't necessarily better quality than Breitling, right? But I like Tudor better because there's no watches in the Breitling catalog at all that I like or would want to buy or wear. And at least there's one in the Tudor catalog that I like, the Tudor Black Bay 58. Anyway, that video, we talked about that Tudor versus Breitling thing. And everybody, I mean literally without fail, 95% of you guys all said Breitling is better than Tudor, and most of you guys kind of crapped all over Tudor, if I'm being honest, and I was shocked. I thought Tudor was a lot more popular than it was. I did get a couple of comments about Rolex also in that video, though. A lot of people saying Rolex sucks, or Breitling is better than Rolex, or Rolex is not what it used to be. And here's the question that I want to pose to everybody. Over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, has Rolex ruined their brand reputation? Obviously, I don't think that they've ruined their brand reputation entirely, but I don't think they've been doing it any favors in a lot of ways. First and foremost, we all know the story, right? 2016, 2017, you could go into a Rolex authorized dealer. You could buy pretty much any Rolex you wanted at any time, right out of the display case. It was not a problem. Just after 2017 and rolling into 2018, that all started to change. At first, it was you just couldn't buy a Daytona. Actually, in 2017 and even before, you really couldn't buy the new Daytona if you wanted it, but everything else was fair game. Then after the Daytona, you couldn't buy the stainless steel GMT Master 2 Pepsi if you wanted that. Then suddenly you couldn't buy things like the Submariner, you couldn't buy the Sea Dweller, you suddenly couldn't buy things like the Oyster Perpetual, you couldn't buy things like a Datejust, certainly you couldn't buy the Sky Dweller, you just could not get anything at retail by the time we're talking 2018 and 2019 and beyond. Did that ruin Rolex's reputation a little bit? There was a lot of other shenanigans going on during that time frame. Number one, you'd go into a dealer and say, I want to buy a Submariner, and they'd say, we'll put you on the list. Was there a list? No, there wasn't a list. We all know that the majority of Rolex authorized dealers were selling the very best watches to their very best clients. Here's the gotcha. A lot of those authorized dealers are also general jewelry dealers. My Rolex AD here in Naples, Florida is, well, one of them. There are two. One of them is not just a watch dealer. They're a jewelry dealer that happens to sell Rolex as an authorized dealer. And I have no doubt, but, no proof either. This is just my speculation, my gut guess that in order to get pretty much any watch, but if you wanted to get the hot watches, you had to go in there and you probably had to buy some nice earrings for your wife, maybe a nice diamond necklace, maybe a very expensive engagement ring. You probably had to spend some bucks with them before they even allowed you the opportunity to buy any Rolex, and not necessarily the one you wanted. If that one you wanted was a Daytona or a GMT Master 2 Pepsi stainless steel, or any of the really hot sports models, you probably weren't even getting those until you built up a huge purchase history. Beyond the AD shenanigans of the supposed, the supposed waitlisting and whether or not you're an established enough client to be offered these watches, then we had the gray market, right? And, don't get me wrong, I like gray market dealers. There's nothing wrong with them specifically, but they're going to other authorized dealers and they're doing the things that the dealers want us to do. They're going in there and they're buying up a bunch of undesirable pieces, whether it's Rolexes or other brands that authorized dealer sells. And then the authorized dealer is giving those gray market dealers the hot pieces. And then the gray market dealers are taking them and they're putting them up for sale on the internet for 2 and 3 and 4 times the retail prices. We all know Rolex Daytonas were going for $35,000 and $45,000 not too long ago. I think they might have come back down a little bit at this point, but I haven't even bothered to look at the prices. So don't take me at gospel for that one. But that was the general gist of it. Couldn't buy the watches at retail if you wanted to. The gray market was wildly overinflated with prices. The accusation was that Rolex was doing things like artificially making less watches than they could so that they could hype them up and so that they could, just create more of a buzz around their brand. Whether or not that's the case, I can't confirm. I don't really know. Some people have said it's just that Rolex was making as many watches as they could and they couldn't keep up with the demand. I don't know. I just find that hard to believe. I mean, every other watch brand that wants to keep up with demand does. And Rolex's demand, while very high, probably one of the highest, isn't like, an order of magnitude higher than brands like Omega or Grand Seiko, is my guess. So, all of that said, did all of those shenanigans diminish the overall reputation of Rolex's brand? Are they ruining their brand reputation by doing all of these things? I have had a lot of people over the last couple of years tell me they don't care about Rolex anymore. They're not trying to get watches. They're not trying to get on wait lists. They've moved on. I've got comments like this saying Rolex sucks, Breitling's better than Rolex. I mean, that's bananas to me. In my mind, there's no reason to even lie and say Breitling is a better brand than Rolex, but some people do obviously think it. And people really are souring on Tudor as well, which is sort of a sister brand of Rolex. I don't know the answer to this question, so I guess I'm just kind of posing it to you guys. What's the deal with Rolex? Is their brand not what it used to be? Are you guys over Rolex? And are you ready to move on to something else entirely? Or have you already moved on entirely? I'd love to know. Now, over the last month, I have teased in a couple of videos that I intend on doing a giveaway to try to encourage you guys to click that subscribe button, because despite getting a lot of views every month, I don't get a lot of people clicking subscribe. More than 85% of you guys are not subscribed when you're watching my videos, and I need you to hit that subscribe button. So, to put the carrot on the stick out there in front of you all, here's what I'm going to do. Over the course of the 2024, second half of 2024, my goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers. And in this watch case, I have a bunch of watches. When we hit 100,000 subscribers, I am going to give these watches to you guys. Let's take a look at what's in this case. It's, just a cheap Amazon watch case, nothing special, but what's in it is pretty cool. Now, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but no watch number 6. I assure you, there is a watch number 6, though. But let's go over these ones first, shall we? So first up, we have the Casio A168W. Very inexpensive little square Casio watch. One of my favorites, though. Next to that, we have the Casio G-Shock DW5600. These are my two favorite Casio watches, and Casio makes a boatload of really good watches, but I just love the Casio squares, so I had to include these in the collection. Yeah, they're inexpensive, but they're fun, and I really like them. I also contributed a third watch to this collection, and that is the Citizen Suyosa. I can never pronounce that watch. The Citizen Suyosa with white dial on a bracelet. Fantastic automatic watch by Citizen. I haven't done a review video on that yet, but I will be doing the video soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, I also have 3 watches that were provided to me by brands over the last few months to do videos on, and since I was allowed to keep these watches, I'm going to include them in the giveaway as well. Let's see, we'll start with the Vaer. This is the Vaer Meridian G5 GMT. Fantastic watch. I did a review video on this last month, and not enough of you guys watched it. So I'm going to put the link to that review down in the description of this video. Go back and watch the review on this Vaer watch. It is absolutely outstanding. Next up, we have the Seiko. It's the Japanese domestic market version of the Seiko Speed Timer Solar Chronograph. I absolutely am in love with this watch. The size, the scale, how it wears on the wrist, the look, the Panda dial chronograph. This watch is absolutely amazing. And this one was provided to me by Discovery Japan. It's a website that specializes in JDM products, mostly watches, but all kinds of stuff. But it's all stuff that was either made in Japan or is only sold in the Japanese domestic market. So I will leave a link to the original review of this watch, which I did about a month and a half ago, down in the description as well. Now, what about this 6th watch? What belongs here? Well, it happens to be the watch that I am wearing today, the Ginault Silent Service, and this one is fantastic. It's got the 12-hour travel bezel, GMT time, second time zone traveler bezel. And yeah, I have not done a watch on this one. I just got it in the mail yesterday. I reached out to Ginault. I've done a bunch of their watch videos, reviews of their watches in the past. And I said, hey guys, would you mind helping me out and providing a watch for my 100,000 subscriber giveaway? And they were more than happy to help out, so a big thanks to them. I will have a review of this watch coming up in the future as well, along with, separately of course, but along with that Citizen Suyosa review that I still need to do. But I think we're gonna have plenty of time before I hit 100,000 subscribers. I'm currently at 50,000 and change. Again, I really hope to hit that number of 100K within the second half of calendar year 2024. I don't know, that might be a lofty goal. But if you guys click subscribe, maybe it'll happen.
Paying thousands for a watch like any luxury brand is so dumb when you have watches that do the same for less than $300. You're just paying for the name.
Are you just paying for the name when you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a luxury watch brand? And do the $300 watches do the same thing? Do they offer the same experience, the same quality? Are they the same as the $3,000 or the $6,000 or the $10,000 watch? No, not at all in my opinion. This comment is ridiculous. $300 watches are fine. There's a lot of really, really good $300 watches out there. In fact, in the giveaway box that I showed you guys, the Citizen Suyosa, I can never pronounce that word, is a little bit more than $300. Like I think I paid less than $300 because I got it from Joma Shop, but I think full retail price on it is $450. Regardless, you can get it for around $300 plus or minus. That's an awesome watch. I am super, super impressed and super blown away by that Citizen Suyosa. But it is, while similar to something like the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in that it has the integrated bracelet and, it just kind of gives that vibe, that overall vibe. It is nowhere near even remotely close to in the terms of quality to something like Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. It's ridiculous to say that it's the same, it's just as good as, when it's just not true. It's absurd. And this comment here that was left on my video suggesting that you can just buy a $300 watch and it's exactly the same as these crazy luxury brand watches is, yeah, asinine to say the least. Now, are you just paying for the name? Well, again, no, you're not just paying for the name, but you are paying for the name some. Like, let's just take, for example, a $500 and a $5,000 watch. The $5,000 watch is not 10 times better than the $500 watch. It's certainly 2, 3, 4 times better. And then you're kind of paying for the name after that a little bit. You're also paying for the, did I say playing? Obviously paying for the quality of after-sales service and support. A lot of people underestimate how important that is. Somebody was suggesting to me recently that they should, or asking if they should get a XYZ watch. I don't even remember what it was. And they were saying, oh, well, this XYZ watch is better than, a Hamilton or a Seiko or Orient or Casio or whatever. And I said, yeah, but like nobody's ever heard of that watch brand. It's brand new. It's only been around for a couple of years. It probably won't be around in a couple of years from now. And now if you do need after sales service and support, you're going to be reaching out to local watchmakers and hoping that they can find parts. And it's just potentially opening up a nightmare. Whereas if you buy the similarly priced Seiko or Orient, guess what? You can pick up the phone, call Seiko USA. You can say, hey, this happened. They'll have you send them the watch. They'll send you the fixed watch back in a couple of weeks. I mean, like, there's a lot of value in buying a watch from an established brand like that you don't get when you buy an upstart micro brand watch. Everyone seems to forget about that. Now, when you're getting up into the luxury tier watches, like, let's just say you bought a $300 watch and after 6 years it broke. 9 times out of 10, that watch is going in the garbage because who's going to pay to repair a $300 watch that's probably beat up like crazy anyway? If you bought a Rolex or an Omega and after 6 years it stopped working, it's going to get sent in and you're going to get it repaired, you're going to get it serviced, you're going to get it back. And that is what we call an heirloom timepiece. And I would rather own an heirloom timepiece that I'm going to keep and I'm going to bother to have serviced and repaired when it needs it than a watch that I'm going to throw in the garbage once it breaks. That's just me. That's just my personal opinion and my take on it. But that's how I feel about it. And, if I was going to recommend to somebody, and I do this all the time, I have friends that are like, oh, you're into watches. What watch should I get? I almost always recommend that they get the absolute best watch that they can afford from the most reputable brand that they can get a watch from, because I want to see them keep that watch for their entire lives. And more often than not, when you buy a $300 micro brand watch or even a $300 major brand watch like Seiko or Orient or whoever, you're not keeping that watch forever. Once it breaks, it's going in the garbage. And, spoiler alert, everything breaks eventually. It's the case with, watches. It's the case with cars, any sort of mechanical device. An electric drill, eventually it's going to wear out. It needs to be thrown away and replaced, or it needs to be repaired. Get something that you're going to be compelled to repair because it's something that has value. Speaking of value, retained value does matter. The reason why you're buying the Rolex name is because Rolex has spent generations instilling the idea that their watches are worth something. And because they have convinced everybody that their watches are worth something, their watches are in fact worth something. It's why you can take a brand new Rolex, wear it for 5 years, and sell it for about the same amount of money that you paid for it. Maybe a little bit less, maybe if you're lucky, even a little bit more. Sometimes they even appreciate in value. The value that the brand has really, really matters. Even if you say, I'm never going to sell that watch, the fact that they did all of that marketing, the fact that they have established this watch and this brand as something that's culturally important is, in my opinion, actually important. Whether or not you care, I guess your mileage will vary. But if you don't care, I think you're wrong. That's just my opinion.
Hamilton is overrated and too expensive.
All right, so the Hamilton Khaki Field, whether we're talking about the mechanical or the automatic version, are two of my favorite watches. This comment in particular was in reference to the mechanical review video that I did, 38 millimeter mechanical. Is it overrated? No, not in my opinion. I think it's awesome. It's my all-time favorite watch in that $500 price range. I guess technically I like the automatic a little bit better than the mechanical, but they're both banger watches. They're fire. They're awesome. I think that this comment is, a little crazy. You're entitled to your opinion. If something just doesn't resonate with you, taste is subjective, and I get it. No, but to say it's too expensive, they're $500. Retail a little bit higher, but you can buy them on sale. You can buy them from gray market dealers. You can get them pretty much all day long for about $500. And if it's not $500, it's $600. Let's not split hairs. What else can you get for $500 right now? Seiko 5 watches, yeah, they're cheaper. I'll take the Hamilton over the Seiko 5, pretty much every day. I think it's a better quality watch with a better movement. Most importantly, the movement is, in my opinion, the most important part of the watch. And Hamilton's watch movements are way better than Seiko's 4R36s or whatever the movement is in the Seiko 5s. What else can you get for under $500? I mean, micro brands, there's tons of micro brands, but we just talked about how like micro brands kind of are like a crapshoot. You don't know if the brand's going to be there in 2 years. The brand doesn't like retain value because nobody knows what it is. Hamilton is like a lifelong generational brand that's been around since what, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. I mean, you know, they've been making watches technically, I think, since the 1800s, if you want to split hairs with pocket watches and stuff. But like as a wristwatch, they've been around since World War I and World War II. I guess, soldiers were wearing Hamilton watches. It's not exactly the same brand that it was back in those days. It's not based in America anymore. It got bought out by the Swatch Group. We all know the story, but it's still a name that means something. And like I mentioned before, I think that brand history, brand heritage equals brand value, and brand value is, at least to me, important. I think this comment saying that Hamiltons are overrated and too expensive is just crazy. I can't disagree with it more.
Why do you keep claiming 100M water resistance on 200M water resistant watches?
All right, so this is in reference to a video that I did this past Friday. It was my list of my top 10 best dive watches from under $100 all the way up to and including watches over $10,000. I picked 10 watches at each kind of price tier all the way up the ladder, picking my favorites. I did, on a couple of occasions, say that like the Orient Kamasu only has 100 meters of water resistance. And I had several people kind of bust my balls about that. Like, look, here's the deal. I sit in front of this camera and it's just a stream of consciousness of me talking for sometimes as much as 30 minutes straight. I am bound to misspeak every once in a while. I can't help it. It happens. It's fine if you want to point it out, but like a lot of people were kind of shitty about it, if I'm being honest, and they were busting my balls because, whoopsie, I said 100 instead of 200. Look, it happens. It's not a big deal. It wasn't a review video. It was just me picking watches and mentioning a few things about the watches that I like. So yeah, simmer down. It's not that big of a deal, but why does it happen? It's because I am giving a 30-minute long speech. And, you know, people tend to mess up once in a while. If I said 100 instead of 200 two times over the course of a 30-minute long presentation, I think that's pretty darn good.
You've really got to check out San Martin. Better finishing than Rolex in the $200 to $300 range.
All right, this is ridiculous. I don't know. I've never seen a San Martin watch in my life. I did go to their website and look at it, and it's all basically homage watches from what I saw. I didn't look at them all, but the majority of what I saw was homage watches to Rolex for $300 and under, maybe plus or minus a little bit from there. Here's the reason I'm even touching on this comment, though. I have been getting a lot of comments from people saying, why don't you check out a San Martin watch? Would you ever review Chinese watches like the ones from the brand San Martin? Or this comment that you really got to check out the San Martin because it's got better finishing than a Rolex. I'm starting to think that these aren't genuine comments. I'm starting to think that the brand San Martin is doing a little bit of a AI bot marketing campaign and just leaving these comments without overtly making it look like spam so that they get deleted. Like this does, in a vacuum, look like a genuine comment left by a genuine viewer or subscriber of the channel. But to get these same kind of comments about this one specific brand over and over and over, when it's just a very affordable homage-based micro brand is the word I'm looking for, yeah, it's a little suspicious. I don't have any proof or anything. I mean, I don't know. Any of you guys out there that I know, like I see all your names in the comments, and I know a lot of you. Let me know. Are these watches actually any good? Like, should I buy one and put it on the channel? I mean, I just looked and I didn't see anything that really interested me that I was like, oh, I got to check that out. But if there is actually a demand to see it, I'll do it. I just sort of feel like this is all fabricated interest so far. I do think that it's potentially, and just a wild guess, but I think it's potentially the brand themselves or their marketing people trying to create interest in their brand by spamming channels on YouTube with these kind of almost outrageous statements, like saying that a San Martin has better finishing than a Rolex.
Really like this new style video you're doing. Keep it up.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the feedback on that. I think in a couple of videos ago, I asked you guys, like, what do you think of the Sunday with Guy episodes? Should I keep them going? I think they're fun. I like doing them. And because I like doing them, I'm going to keep doing them for at least the foreseeable future. It does seem like a lot of you guys also enjoy watching them. I like the variety aspect of the conversations that we have here, the comments that I touch on, and the things that I get to talk about is very varied. It's very varied, and I like that I don't have to just ramble about one specific watch, doing reviews about, the same thing over and over. It's like, it's got a screw-down crown, and it's got a sapphire crystal. Like, we've heard those words come out of my mouth 400 times over the last 7 years, and it's, nice to change the pace a little bit. So I appreciate the feedback on this one. And for the rest of you guys watching, leave me some more feedback. I think this is one of the few that I've gotten that has said that, yeah, you like what I'm doing with these Sunday videos. I'd like to hear from the rest of you guys.
Good episode. However, in the whole history of Hublot, there isn't a single watch that can be said to be good looking, in the classical way.
This was an interesting comment that I got because I don't remember ever bringing up or mentioning Hublot in any of the recent videos that I've done, so I'm not sure if I just completely have blocked that out and I did in fact mention Hublot, or if this was a wholly unsolicited comment, but I thought it was interesting anyway, and I was like, hey, let's talk about Hublot for a minute. Now, the comment goes that there isn't a single watch that can be said to be good looking. To that part, I disagree. In a classical way, it goes on to say. Well, Hublot doesn't make watches that are kind of classical inspired designs, classical looking, whatever, however you want to put it. So to that part of the sentence, I do agree. They don't have any good looking watches that are classical designs. They don't make those kind of watches. So that's not really the right way that I would approach whether or not Hublot has watches that are good looking. I'll take, for example, the Hublot, is it the Big Bang Fusion? I believe that's what it's called. I'll throw up a picture of it. I think this watch looks really good. I like the way that this watch looks. Would I buy one? I mean, they're $8,000, and there's basically almost zero watches that cost $8,000 that I would buy. So no, I wouldn't buy one. But it's not because I don't think that it's a nice looking watch. I do. I think they look great. If somebody gave me one, or if I could get one for just an absurd deal, I'd buy it. I'd wear it. I would absolutely rock this watch. I think they look great. It raised the question in my mind, though, because Hublot gets mocked a lot by the watch enthusiast community, by you guys. You guys mock Hublot in my comments and in other videos a whole lot over the time that I've been interested in watches, going on almost a decade now. I have seen lots of mocking and lots of hatred for the brand Hublot. And I have wondered many, many times why that is. Because I go to the watch store, I borrow watches from my buddies down the road here at Exquisite Timepieces. They're a Hublot dealer. I've actually done a video or two on Hublot. And overall, yeah, I have liked the watches. They're not my favorite. They're very, is esoteric the right word? They're kind of out there in terms of their designs and stuff. Yeah, for sure. But some of them are cool. Again, that Fusion watch, I do actually like that. I would 100% wear that watch. Do I like all their watches? No, I don't like all their watches, but I don't like all of Rolex watches either. I don't like the majority of Rolex watches. I don't like the majority of Breitling's watches. I don't like the majority of most brands' watches in terms of the aesthetic styling and the design anyway. I mean, I can look at a Breitling watch and let's just say the Navitimer and be like, oh, I don't like it because it's too big or certain design aspects, but I recognize that it's still a significantly important horological timepiece and that it's well made. So the distinction there should be clear. That said, Hublot makes a ton of watches that I don't like. Of course, every brand makes the majority of their watches that are not for me. But that's okay. Every watch isn't intended to be for me. You don't need to like every single watch that Seiko makes, but you can still like Seiko. You can still respect the brand, and you can still have models within the brand that you do like. That's how it works, right? Whether we're talking about watches or cars, vehicles, motorcycles, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the same across the board with all brands and manufacturers, except Gibson. I like all of Gibson's guitars, but that's a side note. Now, what is it that everybody like mocks about Hublot that I've heard the most, aside from the designs, which are quirky and kind of out there in some cases, it's the movements, right? Like that Fusion watch that I brought up and talked about briefly that I said I do like, does use Hublot reference XYZ123. I don't remember the reference number of their, or the caliber number of the movement in that watch, but it's not a Hublot made in-house movement. It's a Sellita SW300-1 movement. Lots of people mock them and say like, oh, it's an $8,000 watch, but they are using a Sellita movement. That's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. I am totally over the idea that a brand needs to make an in-house movement. I could care less whether they're using an ETA or a Sellita or an in-house movement. Doesn't matter to me as long as it's a good movement. And, you know, I harp on Seiko, entry-level Seiko especially, for using really bad movements. I mean, technically, Seiko's NH35 movement is an in-house movement. It's awful. It's an awful movement, yet it's in-house. So, like, that, it doesn't matter to me that it's in-house if it stinks. I mean, like, they don't keep time well. They're inaccurate. They are, I mean, moderately reliable. Sure, they don't tend to stop working, but like its job is to keep time, and it rarely ever does keep good time. And I know 1,000 of you guys are gonna be like, I have a Seiko XYZ123 and it keeps perfect time. Good for you. I have owned at least 30 Seiko watches and almost none of them kept good time after having them for more than a few months. A lot of them kept good time right out of the box. They almost always got worse, and then I would regulate them, and they would be good for a little while, and then they would get bad again. That's just been my experience with entry-level Seiko movements. So, give me the $8,000 Hublot with a really well-tested and reliable and accurate Sellita SW300 any day of the week over a crappy in-house movement that doesn't keep good time. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. So yeah, the brand of Hublot. Do they make any good-looking watches? That was the point of the original comment. Yeah, I think they do. Are they good-looking in a classical way? No, because they don't make that kind of watch. Neither does, I don't know, H. Mosier, and they sell watches for tens or maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're good-looking watches, but not in a classical way. It's okay. It's just their design cue. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. That was July 7th episode of Sunday with Guy, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of today's episode. Leave me comments and messages for future videos. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. That is paramount. Like I said, I'm doing the giveaway, giving away 6 watches. You cannot win if you're not subscribed. So, click the button, smash the button, pound the button, do whatever you have to do to that button to make sure you're subscribed. Turn on notifications so when I do official announcements about the giveaway, you do not miss them. With all of that said, I really appreciate you coming and watching today, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up for now. Say, until the next one, bye now.